up, everybody? Welcome back to the Properties and Pour-Overs podcast. My name is Adam Colburn, and today I have a very special guest, my buddy Michael Mnatsakanian. What's up, Michael?
What's up, Adam? How you doing, brother?
Good, bro. Good. Hope you are. I appreciate you coming in, taking some time to share your experience. Just to introduce yourself to our listeners, can you tell me where you're located in the country and what your business looks like currently?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm right near Monterey, California. So Northern California, roughly an hour and a half south of San Francisco.
Okay.
I was in San Diego before that. So SoCal, and then I was in the military prior to that. So Texas, Oklahoma, and then Alaska for a couple years. Otherwise, it's always been California outside of that.
Gotcha, gotcha. Cool. And as far as like your portfolio or your real estate endeavors right now, like what does that portfolio look like?
Yeah, so I currently own over $22 million of real estate. A lot of it is kind of throughout the country. I own in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Arizona, Montana, California, Washington, and Alaska. Maybe more. I don't even know because that was a lot of states.
Yeah.
I do all different types of strategies, long-term, mid-term, short-term rentals. But my favorite is co-living rentals. So rent by the room properties.
Yeah.
And the majority of my portfolio, outside of $18,000 of my own money, I've either leveraged banks' money, sellers' money, or raising money from other investors that want me to do all the work and then they fund the deals essentially. So
Amazing.
I say all that though, and I know we'll get into it, but I say all that to say that I didn't own a single piece of real estate less than 5 years ago. In May of 2020 is when I bought my first one. And here, March of 2025, I've got over 22 million. So just
Wow.
to put that into perspective, it's not this 30-year, thing for me.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's incredible growth over a 5-year time horizon. That's insane. So I mean, you already mentioned it, only 5 years in with very little money. What brought you into this space? Like, did you have prior experience or family members or friends that were in real estate? Like, what were you doing before you found this space?
That's a great question. So I will say before I even thought about real estate investing, I had one goal, and it was to be financially free so I can have time freedom, so I can spend my time however I wanted, primarily with my family, traveling the world, those kinds of things. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I just knew my mom raised me as a single mom. She worked multiple jobs, barely made ends meet, didn't ever get to see her. I knew when I had a family that my family, I was going to be as present as possible for them. So I don't
Mm,
know how I was going to make it happen, but I knew before we started really growing our family, I was going to have financial freedom. Initially, I thought I was going to be a doctor and just make a bunch of money, and that was it. I don't know, money in a bank account would be it.
right.
Then I got a little smarter and learned about investing and stock market, and I was like, "Hey, that's cool. In 40 years, I'll have like $3 million, and then I could pull $40,000 of that out, and we could live off that. I don't know, Social
Right.
Security." And then
Yeah.
when I graduated as a chemical engineer at UC San Diego, I took up a nighttime role as a leasing agent. Just a family friend had a leasing agent job. They just need a few hours part time, super easy. I could do stuff there, and so they just need someone to kind of sit there. I was like, I could do that for not a lot of money, but I'll sit there. I'm an
Sure.
engineer, but I'll sit there, after work. And then
Hmm.
one day, the owners of the apartment complex came in, and they were pretty young people, and they own this that huge apartment complex. And I started asking them questions, learned that they basically did something known as the Burr strategy, where they buy a property, typically cash or using other people's money. They renovate it to increase the value of it, increase the rents, and they refinance it. They take out a whole new bank loan to pull all of their money out, to pay back their partners and all that. And now they have a cash flowing asset that is worth a bunch of money, newly remodeled, and they just kind of rinse and repeat that over and over again. I had
No.
no idea that I'd be doing things at the level that I'm doing it now. My goal was maybe I buy a property or whatever, but that was my inspiration to think, what if real estate is my faster route to get there? It's going to be more work, more risk, a lot more involvement than just putting money in the stock market.
Yeah.
But I could get my goal much more quickly. And that was kind of the inspiration, the start of real estate investing. And then
Gotcha.
when I officially commissioned in the Army, I was working out, learning, training, whatever, working. And I spent a lot of my time um, learning about real estate investing. It was bigger pockets, forums, books, podcasts, whatever I could get my hands on. And when I was stationed in Fairbanks, Alaska in 2019, is when I started really looking at house hacking a small multifamily property. So house hacking, buying either a big house and renting it by the room, or what I was looking to do, buy up to 4 units, living in a unit and then renting out the rest. It's a
Yeah.
strategy that I learned about. So that was the thing I was primarily focused on because we were already living in a duplex that we were renting. We were living in one side. There were actually upstairs, and there were other tenants downstairs. And then that was the switch. It was like, why can't I just do this and be the owner of this instead of
Yeah.
the renter and paying someone else? Like, this is exactly what I should do. So I
Sure.
just started analyzing deals and deals and deals and deals until to my first meetup and met other investors and realized I think I've spent almost 18 months, over 1,000 hours analyzing investments, but I had no real estate to show for it. I was analyzing and numbers were making sense on a spreadsheet, but all the people around me, they had real estate. They were getting cash flow. They were actually achieving financial freedom. All I was doing was getting really good at putting numbers in a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So that was the wake up call that if I did not start making offers, it was not worth my time because I was in Alaska. I could go travel, hang out, like fish, whatever, do all that good stuff, spend time with my wife, do a bunch of cool stuff instead of wasting time analyzing numbers on a spreadsheet that I was never going to do anything with. So
Right.
basically, gave myself an ultimatum in March of 2020 that either A, I was going to make an offer on the next deal that made sense on a spreadsheet, or B, I was going to stop pretending to be a real estate investor. It was already 18 months. Like there's no more learning that I needed to do. Not that I learned everything, but it wasn't learning that was holding me back. It was action.
Yeah.
And action, like knowledge without action is literally just kind of a waste of time. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
especially in the investing space, it's useful, but if you don't take the action, it was meaningless. And
Totally.
so that's what started everything for me was making my first offer on the 2 unit, living in one side, renting out the other, and just getting confident in like, okay, I can do this thing.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. No, I resonate with that. Totally. What mine wasn't quite 18 months, but it took quite a while before I actually took action. And like you're saying, like at that point, you just have a really weird hobby that it's not bringing you any like tangible assets, money. You're just kind of putting time in. You might as well just go play video games. You're gonna have
It's
more fun doing that
I was
than
gonna
looking at
say it's
deals.
like playing 2K without the rest, or it's like playing Monopoly by yourself. No,
Yeah.
it's even worse than that. It's like, yeah,
It's
I
a
didn't have
sad
anything to show for
situation.
but numbers in a spreadsheet. So it's like
Yeah.
not even as fun, like you said, as video games.
Right.
That's literally what I told myself. I was like, what if I just took like, because I was doing it before work in the
Yeah.
military, I was like 4 o'clock in the morning in freezing Alaska
Hmm.
during lunch and then after work. I would sit in my office after work was done and continue doing real estate stuff. It's like, why am I doing all this stuff? But it doesn't feel that way. I didn't know at the
Sure.
time what I had was paralysis by analysis. It felt like I was doing something by analyzing these deals. And I was because I was learning, but that was like one of the 10 steps that I needed to do to actually own real estate
Yeah.
and then to get the cash flow, which will then make me financially free. Like,
Totally.
great, but that's step one. How do I move to step two, making offers? Step
Right.
three, my due diligence. Step four, closing. Step four, renovating. Step five, rent. Like if I didn't get past step one or two, whatever, wherever you want to say it is,
Yeah.
it was never going to get throughout the process of owning real estate to then become financially free. And
Totally.
that was the wake up call. It's like, well, I want this financial freedom. I'm stuck here. There's these steps. I got to do all these steps. And basically, the way I've gotten over $22 million of real estate since, once I had that revelation, it's like, cool. I've got to rinse and repeat this process. And every time I'm going to learn more and get smarter and better, maybe better deals. I'm going to have more skills. Like that was ideas. I've just done it hundreds of times with then 40 plus like full cycle on a transaction to then
Yeah.
be able to, own the portfolio of 60 plus rentals that I own.
Yeah. No, that's huge. That's huge. And I think a lot of people struggle with that because it's like it can become like creative avoidance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I just look at deals, I look at deals, I look at deals, but like if I don't actually pick up the phone and call that agent or call that seller and make the offer, like what are we doing here? Right? Like
Right.
we're just wasting time. But in our minds we're like, no, I'm busy. I'm putting all this time in there, but there's nothing to show, right?
Yeah. It's like
And so yeah,
I'm reading this book. I'm obviously learning.
right.
I'm listening to this podcast. I'm analyzing this deal. I am on Zillow. It's like, yeah, but you got to
Yeah.
do next
Gonna
step.
implement.
Next.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
easier in hindsight. It's easier to say now in hindsight. Then I thought, like you said, it felt like I was doing all the right things. I was learning, I was analyzing, but like I didn't
Yeah.
realize until someone else told me, like or like I had to see other people who were ahead of me. It's like,
Yeah.
well, the difference is they're actually making offers. I'm just in my spreadsheets.
Right. Totally. Yeah, no, it's huge. Well, and I think that like the way that you went about it, doing the house hacking model, like that's one of my biggest regrets because obviously I found the space, real estate investing after I was married and we already had kids. Like trying to house hack with three little ones running around was kind of
Right.
out of the question. And I'm like, man, I wish I could have done that because I think that is the cheat code to get in. Like the lowest barrier of entry, you have somebody else paying for you to live there essentially, or at least break even. So now you're saving a ton of money. You get that confidence, like you mentioned, to now launch into the next thing, and you can just slowly build and build. And I'm sure, with your military background, were you able to utilize like a VA loan on that first
Yeah,
house?
so 0% down. So
Yeah.
basically 0% down, got paid a little bit to live there and got paid a lot more once we moved out. And
Yeah.
that was actually the main reason why this made a lot of sense to me because I was like, well, not only am I going to invest, but reality, if I want to put more money in the stock market, which is what I was doing, I would have $1,500 less each month than I'm
Yeah.
paying towards housing.
Right.
And on top of that, someone else is paying down my mortgage. And on top of that, there's a few $100 coming in of cash flow. On top of that, my property is going to appreciate in value, especially because we renovated it. We forced the value of the property up. By
Yeah.
the time we sold that first one, 2 years later, it was worth twice as much as we bought it for. And
It's
I wasn't
crazy.
paying taxes on any of that money. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. Like this is there's if I'm finding deals like this, and this was Alaska, so it's not as you don't get home runs like that in Alaska, or you don't get
Right.
home runs like that everywhere.
Hmm.
Alaska is a harder place to own in. So it also means you tend to get higher returns, at least on the cash flow side.
Sure.
It doesn't appreciate as much as value as unless you're like renovating it the way that we did.
Hmm.
But what you are getting is a lot of cash flow. I understand that doesn't work the same for everyone or in everywhere, but I've also done that with $1 million+ property using my VA loan again. So I sold the first one so I can use it again for a
Hmm.
3 unit in San Diego, and we still live rent free. So it's
Yeah.
not like it's possible. Like those are the two extremes of markets,
Right.
and it's possible. But it was my wife and I and a small dog, and it was a lot easier because we didn't have kids. And my
Yeah.
wife, bless her soul, like that's a weird way to phrase it, but thankfully to her, very supportive, and we
Sure.
just continued doing this. Like we did
Yeah.
it 3 times, and it was a massive cheat code. But in that same time, I was still learning, but I was also taking action now. So I started learning about cash wholesaling. How can I find properties that investors want to buy, put them under contract, and then sell it to them? And
Yep.
instead of wholesaling by finding deals first and then selling them to whoever the end buyer was, I started with an end buyer. I was essentially a bird dog
Yeah.
who was then going directly to sellers, understanding, okay, investors want these returns. They're telling me they want these properties. How can I then find them exactly those properties so I knew exactly who was going to buy it, how much I was going to get? And that's
Yep.
just more the analytical way that I did wholesale. I did that dozens of times,
Yeah.
done over 100 wholesale deals.
Yeah.
But really, what's accelerated my journey, right? My house hacks were great, my wholesaling was great, but it's my super investor blueprint, kind of the thing that I teach, the
Hmm.
model of finding deals primarily from wholesalers, mastering deal and out. Actually, let's rephrase that. It's understanding your financial freedom goal. Like that's number one. You got to understand what is that number you're trying to achieve. And
Yep.
that's really based on your expenses and projecting forward some of the expenses you anticipate to have. But financial freedom is when your income, your passive income exceeds your expenses, then you are technically financially free.
Yep.
And then once you have that number, cool. We need to get really great at analyzing deals so you know what is a good investment and what is not. And pro tip, 99% of properties out there are not great investments. They're just properties that people should buy and live in. They're not
Right.
great investments at all.
Yep. Yeah.
And then from there, because I'm all about scalability, like you don't get to 22 million in less than, and really 20 million of that has come in the last 2 years, 2.5 years. You don't get there without being efficient and doing things that are scalable. So
Yep.
could I do my own direct lead gen and talk to sellers and all that? For sure. I can go on Zillow. I can talk to agents. I can talk to sellers directly. But really what's scalable is buying deals from wholesalers. But most wholesalers put crap properties under contract as well. So that's where that deal analysis is so important to then identify what is a great deal and what is not. And if they have a deal, but on the surface it's not a great one, could that be renegotiated to then make that a better deal? That's where
Yep.
that super deal analysis comes in. It's not just analyzing it like as is, but then using that laser vision in a sense to basically, can we make this a better deal? Can we find the diamond in the rough that maybe this wholesaler as a non-buyer didn't understand?
Yep.
So that financial freedom, analyzing deals, wholesaler deals, raising the money for those deals, whether you are doing that with private money lenders and private money partners, and then essentially just having really great business and property systems and operations. Because every step of the way needs to be somewhat scalable. Like if something is repeatable, that's an efficiency that can be made. There's a
Yep.
lot of human element involved, but there's also a lot of things that are very administrative that could be automated or outsourced. And that's kind of this whole process that I've done 40
Sure.
plus times in the last 2.5 years to then scale my portfolio from, my, well, 2 years of learning, right? 18 months of learning, then one property year one, two in the next year, although all these were small multifamily. One the year after that, when I got out of the military and decided I was going to retire. And then
Hmm.
I met Pace Morby and Subto and was very reinvigorated and inspired to do more. I realized I had a limiting belief in I didn't want to grow because I was managing a lot of my portfolio. I was doing a lot of the stuff myself that I enjoy doing. So I didn't want to buy more properties for me to manage and all that. So I learned, oh,
Right.
I don't have to. Why am I doing that? I
Yeah.
don't have to manage more properties. I don't have to do my own rehab. I was already analyzing deals where I wasn't going to have to, and I still was doing that. I don't know why I was doing that.
Yeah.
In hindsight, like it's one of those things. Like, why was I analyzing deals for 18 months before I made offers? I don't. Same
Sure.
concept here with like the managing my properties, and then learning things like, well, I can just buy deals from other people, buy them from wholesalers. I can just use other people's money to buy deals as long as I'm bringing them great investment opportunities. Kind of like leveraging all that, putting all that together is then what allowed the scalability to occur. And yeah, that's kind of like how I started the origins, why I started, kind of the beginning foundation of my portfolio. And if you just bought one house hack, you're already 95% ahead of like the population when it
Oh
comes to
yeah.
real estate. You don't need
Totally.
60 plus rentals. I'm just like kind of crazy now, and you don't need that. Like you don't need 20 plus million dollars in real estate. Like one
Sure.
deal, one business will change your life. And really what it does is it proves the concept to then get to one property to five property, 10 to 20. Like you can't get to 100 without one.
Right.
And that one is usually the hardest.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you just got to get started. Well, and I think what you said, like, because we still wholesale, that was how I got into the space first, was wholesaling. I think that reverse wholesaling, going direct to buyers before just going and shotgunning a bunch of properties, is way more efficient, like you mentioned, if you are on that side. But then when you get to that point where you have some capital to go and invest in other deals, or you're raising the capital by leveraging other people like wholesalers or agents and just educating them on how to bring you good deals. Like I'm happy to pay for a good deal. Just send me a good deal, right? And oftentimes, because like in our business, we only flip creatively nowadays. Like we're doing like subtail model on more
Mhm.
luxury properties, and 90% of wholesalers only know cash, right?
Right,
And so the numbers aren't going to make sense, but it's like, let me talk to the seller, let me renegotiate it. I might even come in at a higher purchase price, but it's on terms. I'll still pay you for the opportunity. And now
right.
you learned a skill to go find these deals for me, right? So now you can bring it on a silver platter. And I think like that just you're providing value to them, but in turn, like building that their confidence and their skill set up to just amplify your growth by leaning on those other people. And like you mentioned, like building out the systems and processes, like that's the only way that you can scale, right? You can't do it all on your own. And like you said, it's just I think we all struggle with that, just entrepreneurs in general, is we kind of want to hold on to everything and
Right.
like be the ones to make the final decision. But once you can get into that mindset of like who, not how, like let me give this to somebody else that is either better at it or cheaper than I am
Right.
to continue to scale, like that's the quickest way to growth. And so and you've embodied that perfectly in the way that you've built your portfolio.
But I struggle with it all the time because there's new levels to it. That's
Yeah,
what I
for sure.
like. Every level you get to, it's like another thing, and it's kind of the same thing over and over again, but just at this new level.
Yeah.
Which was first, it was like I wasn't making the decision; I was frozen. Right, I was
Hmm.
frozen in taking action. Then it was like, well, I'm not delegating or I'm not outsourcing the things I put on a spreadsheet, like property management and rehab. Like, why am I underwriting for that and then not delegating that stuff, not hiring the right people to do that?
Yeah.
And then it was well, now I'm consistently finding deals and raising money for those deals, but I'm spending so much time operating my properties and my business, doing the overall asset management, even with VAs, bookkeepers, property managers, all that. There's still operational things. Cool. Well, then it took basically my back against the wall to say, well, I need like an operations manager, an asset manager to
Yeah.
help oversee some of these projects, the property furnishings, the property overall, the property management, the bookkeeping, like that needs to get done. And right now it's like now I'm at the phase where I've got a lot of people and I need a certified bona fide like COO to come in and say, hey, you've done good. Go be the dancing bear. Go
Right.
raise money. Go find more deals. Go help more people through super investors and let us do a lot of the operational things that you are spending. Like you don't need to be part of every meeting. You
Yeah.
don't need to be part of like, oh, what's the progress on this? What's the progress on this? And it's like that just this whole thing, and it's such a hard thing for me right now. But I
Sure.
know it's a necessity to get to the next level, just like every other step was.
Yeah.
So to say like it's so hard to just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be done. Like this, what we are committing to when you're going down this journey, and you could always stop at any point. What we're committing to is a continual life of more problems to overcome, more limiting beliefs to overcome, more things to learn and implement. Like they're just different levels to it. And for
Right.
me, I'm just grateful every year that it's new problems.
Yeah.
Like that for me is exciting. But like I said, I could stop at any point, and that's fine. That's the cool part. And anyone can stop. You can do one house, and you don't have to continue leveling up and growing.
Hmm.
But if you want to, just understand that it never ends. But there's more rewards at the end of that never ending. And for me,
Sure.
that's just more exciting. It's the more that is how you tap into more of your full potential throughout your life.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think a lot of us too that are in this space, like some obviously get in for the financial freedom, the wealth creation, generational wealth for their kids, building a legacy. But like, I know me personally and a lot of other investors that I know, like we just love this space, right? Like we just are passionate about deals. We're passionate about problem solving. And like you mentioned, like the bigger the problem, the bigger the payday, right? And so
So
it
you
gets
and
to
I
the
are very
point,
opposite. Like I
really?
know people like you, and I love
Yeah,
people like you, and there's a lot of people like you. And I'm like that to an extent. The
right.
problem solving is enjoyable because it's different each time. I
Hmm.
mean, it's kind of repeatable now. It's like the
Sure.
same 10 things, like they
Right.
all fall into the same. It's like it's not that unique anymore.
Yeah.
But for me, I always tell people I don't actually care about houses. I like
Yeah.
literally don't care about them. I don't even like worry about the money coming in because I already have way more than I need to spend. And
Hmm.
I'm not like worried about making more money for that car or watch. I literally don't care about a single material.
Right.
What I do care about now is like outsourcing stuff to the right
Hmm.
people. But in theory, that's not like a liability. I'm not putting money into something that's losing value. It's like that's benefiting me. It's freeing up my time and usually growing my business.
Yeah.
But for me, it was always about the financial freedom and the time freedom. So I'm in this weird position where it's like, well, then do I slow down so I can have more of that time freedom that I've said this is what it's all about?
Hmm.
Or do I then start learning better skills to be a better leader and start outsourcing and hiring the right people, which is
Yeah.
the route that I'm taking? Because that's still more enjoyable because I do like to work. I genuinely
Sure.
like to work. I could not work, but it's never been about the houses. It's been about the financial freedom for me. And for
Sure.
me, it's also helping other people. I love
Yeah.
helping my team learn. I love providing great, high quality housing to tenants where I know someone else may not do that, whether it's a corporation or a slumlord or whatever. At least I know I care about people more than I care about houses. And I care about the financial freedom for myself. And I care about that and the time freedom way more than I care about materials. So it's kind
Sure.
of this little mix of both.
Hmm.
And but it's less about like, because I know people who like spend more time and effort, like, oh, they just got to win. I just hung out with probably one of the wealthiest people that I know. And for him, it's like, oh, sweet. I just secured an extra $1,600 on that deal. 100 million plus net worth. I guess it's
Right.
got 1,600. Like it's a game. For
Yeah,
me, it's not
totally.
really like that. Like that doesn't drive me per se.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think it's just it's a different game, right? Like
Right.
in that regard, it's more like a specific number. But like you said, now at the position where your business is, it's more just providing value and then continuing to elevate because I can tell like you just want to be hyper efficient in everything you do. There's always more tweaks and things that you can do to build out this empire that you've created, which I think is really cool. And it makes a ton of sense that you would have started your own community to show people how to do that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
and
it's like a
so,
people game for me, not like a
yeah,
money or deals game. That's a great
right,
way to
yeah,
say it. Like
more impact. My metric is how many people have reached their level of success. Right,
right.
that's your success. Yeah,
And that's why my mentor Pace makes a lot of sense, right? Or like our mentor Pace, right? Because it's
yeah,
like he's of that same game. It's a people game.
right,
I bet you if you ask him how much money he make, well, he's really good though. He like knows this stuff. He probably knows exactly how much they made and all
sure.
that. He's really he does understand that stuff. But it's not about the money.
Hmm.
It's about and like I'm not that I don't think it's about the money for you either. It's about
Yeah, it's
it's
impact.
the deals.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's problem solving.
Hmm.
For me, it's like people, and absolutely right. I don't think anyone's ever repeated that back or said it more eloquently. So it was awesome. So I am playing that game.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
A
no,
different,
absolutely. I love
yeah,
it. Well, so I know you mentioned the your your experience in the military. Do you think that some of that training that you went through in the army, it was the army, right?
yeah.
Yeah, like in the army, do you think some of those SOPs or just that kind of diligence and constant training has transitioned over into your entrepreneurship like the way that you've leveled up or not so much?
That's a great question. I never thought of it in that sense. Like, because I did the military for one reason and one reason only. My family is first generation American, or I
Hmm.
am first generation American. I
Yeah.
was thankful. I graduated as a chemical engineer. I had no business going into the military, losing half my pay. There was no financial reason to do that. I was
Hmm.
just thankful. Like my lottery ticket was being born in this amazing country. So
Yeah.
I served for that one reason. And that's why I got out after my 4 years. I served as a thank you to our amazing country. That's why I served. Did did it translate into my real estate business or like this. I don't think so because I already had that work ethic from my
Sure.
mom, like learning from what I did and didn't want to do, similar to her. And I
Hmm.
had to work at a necessity. I had to pay for my schooling, multiple jobs the whole time I was in college. I was working at the dining hall 2 weeks before school even opened up, so that
Yeah.
I could part of my like being able to afford going to school. So
Sure.
I've always kind of had the work ethic, the discipline that was needed,
Hmm.
which is also, if you don't, that's where the military really helps with discipline and structure and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I do think that a combination of being in the military, COVID, low interest rates, all that at one time was the reason why I was able to be as successful as I was, in the sense of like it was like perfect time to start up
Sure.
between like I was already disciplined at work, so it's easier to be disciplined at home.
Hmm.
I like interest rates were lower and there was less there was like less things to do, right? In general during COVID. So it was like all that was a perfect whirlwind with the military and as part of it. But I think it would have happened either way. Potentially, but then being in Alaska, that was also part of it. Like in the
Yeah.
military, moving to Alaska. So
Right.
like I can't say, but at the end of the day, if you're listening, you don't need to be in the military or not, but you do
Right.
need discipline. You need to put in work
Yeah.
and you have extreme ownership of your actions. If you want X result, there's usually Y action that gets you there. Either
Sure.
you choose to do it or you're willingly choosing not to do it. Like they're both decisions, whether you
Yeah.
do or don't do it. And if you want that result, the only way to get there or to increase your likelihood of getting there is to do the thing. Whether you succeed or fail, that's not what you're doing. You're just increasing your likelihood of succeeding by doing that action. And if you don't do the action, you're guaranteed to fail.
For
That's the
sure.
main thing. And that's
Yeah.
the extra ownership. Like military was all about that. That's for sure. I mean, yeah, it was a lot of discipline. So it definitely benefited that. It gave me structure after college, which was
Hmm.
nice. I was pretty good with that. But the military forced it, whether you're good at that or not. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was just curious. Okay. Well, so obviously you've got an amazing portfolio. You've got massive growth over the last 5 years, but what's next? What's that big push for the next 5 years? Is there, I know we've talked about the material things aren't that important to you. Is there like what is the big, like what Pace is talking about, this Mount Everest? Like, what's your big goal that you need to surround yourself with other like-minded people to kind of push in that direction to reach?
So it's leveling myself up as a leader so that I can have a larger impact is like one of the biggest things. So having more of an impact, right? That people game that I play, how can I
Hmm.
help more people? I
Yeah.
have that through my super investors community. So scaling that, but then also ensuring the results for them is a big part. So reinvesting a lot of time, money, and energy into ensuring their success while also growing the community. Because if I truly want to help thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, well, then I need to level up the way that I operate. So that's like my big thing right now is how can I grow and scale my ability to help people? And I have
Yeah.
my super investors community, but that's primarily for people who already have real estate investing experience,
Sure.
people who already have some money set aside. It's not that like it's not as inclusive. It's for a specific type of person who's already doing real estate but can't consistently find great deals, or is
Yeah.
doing it but doesn't understand how to get creative finance deals, or is not efficiently finding deals, or has been using their own money instead of someone else's money, or doesn't understand the co-living management strategy where you just make a bunch more money than you would otherwise,
Right.
right? Like that's really what it's for. It's like, how do I help investors level up? That's what that community is for. Outside
Yeah.
of that, I have a free community called Wealth to Real Estate on the school platform, and it's absolutely free. I do live weekly Q&As, free trainings, free calculators, free all these tools and resources and trainings and all that stuff just to help people out. Like that, I think we have over 1,000 members now, and it's just like that's like a big way. Like I have my paid community for like
Hmm.
leveling up with that, but I also provide as much value as I can through free content and the free community as much as possible.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
amazing.
one of the big things I care about on the business side, in the real estate side, is providing more affordable housing options. I think it is insane that we've gotten to a place that people cannot afford living in the communities that they work and serve in. So that affordable housing, that co-living, is a great way to do that. Unfortunately, it's rent by the room, but at least it allows them to live in the community that they're actually, working and serving in.
Yeah.
It's like crazy to say that because I know we're part of the problem as investors, like we're increasing the price of housing, but at the end of the day, someone's going to be doing it. People are much more grateful, in my opinion, that it's me who actually cares about them and their
Right.
properties rather than corporations and slumlords. Like it's going to happen either way. Like
Yep.
this is the way the world is going. Inflation, affordability, like this is how it's happening. It's better people like us
Yep.
rise up and do it the best that we can for the people that we're serving rather than corporations who make people just numbers on a spreadsheet.
A hundred
So
percent. Yeah, no,
it's
that's
like you go
huge.
either like what
Yeah.
I could do is bury my head in the sand, but that's not going to solve anything for
Right.
anyone. So,
Yeah, we have to be the ones to take up the mantle and kind of shift the perspective on that.
right.
Um,
Be the change you want to see in the world, right? So,
1,000%. Well, Michael, I really appreciate your time. Love your journey. Love what you guys are doing over there. If somebody's watching this and wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to connect with you?
So if you go to my Instagram, Michael M Nat, MNAT, so Michael MNAT, um, in there I share a bunch of stuff, but really it's that link in the bio. If you go to the link in the bio, I've got my YouTube Super Investors REI, so real estate investing. It's got like literally the most in-depth like deal analysis, how I fund deals, like literally I just share everything that I can to help people out. That the
Yeah.
free school, the paid school, free downloadables, all that, it's all in the link in my bio at Michael Mnat.
Amazing. Michael, thanks so much for your time. Everybody, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next time, we'll catch you later. Peace.
Peace, brother. Thank you.